Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stone by Stone. I'm very grateful to still be your host, Andrew Swanson, back again this week after our co-host Lauren Hall took over last week. Congratulations, Lauren, on the excellent interview with me. And today, for our episode, I am extremely grateful also to welcome our guest this week, CEO and co-founder of One Soccer Nation, Kareem Ray. Kareem, thank you so much for being here, man.
Absolutely. Andrew, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. I'll say to our listeners, most of whom probably know about you, but for those who don't, Kareem Ray hosts my favorite podcast. So I'm very excited to have him on board here because, as many of our listeners know, I've been a student of soccer and soccer business for not a super long time, but especially the last year or so, I've had to dig into as many books and resources as possible to learn as much as possible about the world of soccer business. And few pieces of media have given me more gems and insights than your podcast. So thank you so much for being with us today on ours. And yeah, I really look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's the goal is, for myself to learn as well as to provide value to others like yourselves and others in the soccer business. So everything that you just said, I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we're gonna get into all the details and all the sort of history. But before we get started, why don't you, for those of our guests who or our listeners who don't know, why don't you explain a little bit about what the platform is, the podcast, and just sort of a little bit about what you've built over there?
Yeah, absolutely. So in regards to One Soccer Nation, we have three sides. So we have the media, which is the podcast where I've done 300 plus interviews with pro players, coaches, scouts, agents, club owners, city officials, investors. That's where we highlight the beautiful game on and off the field. The second side is consulting. So on a case by case basis, we provide consulting services. And then the third side is that we're working on launching our first professional soccer team. We've been building the relationship with the USL League, which you guys are in for since 2022. So wow, it's been 4 years. I was about to say 3.
Wow.
But I'm quite biased towards the USL League. But no, we've been able to build some great relationships at the league as well as in the beautiful game. Where we currently provide value is a lot of value is on the media side. So if there's anyone ever interested to being on our podcast, please reach out to myself. My email is kr@onesoccernation.com if you're interested in media exposure, strategic media exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the word strategic is very clever and very smart there and very accurate, which is that, you talk about on your show and just in general, like your work in general is really about giving people a platform to kind of explain their side of the game and what they do in it, but also like how they look at it and how they view opportunities in the game and things like that. And that's like, to me, so fascinating. So anyway, for those of you who don't, this is your first time hearing about Kareem and One Soccer Nation, go look it up, watch every episode you can. You will learn an enormous amount. And yeah, thank you for that explanation and for being on here. So now I'd love to delve a little bit deeper into your story and your history. You're a bit of a Renaissance man. Like you're looking you up is like, wait, is this the same guy who wrote this book? It is. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your upbringing and kind of like how you got into the game in the first place, like either as a child or in your household. Just tell me a little bit more about little Kareem back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll try to make a long story short. So yeah, grew up here in Canada, started playing football or soccer at the age of 4, all the way from grassroots to semi-pro levels across Canada, was on trials in England in 2018 for 6 weeks trying to go pro. 2019, I was in France for 3 months on trials trying to go pro there. And then the last time I played for it was in 2021, Naples United FC in Naples, Florida, which was an amazing experience in the MPSL, an amazing facility. Now where FC Naples now plays in USL 1.
Mm-hmm.
So my co-founder, Jay Waterman, he's the one that planted the seed when I was 18 at the time. So back in 2018, working at his office as well as playing soccer and training. In Canada at the time, I was working at his office in Toronto. And he asked me a question. We're in the office. He's like, do you know how to go pro? And I was like, I don't. He's like, you want to go pro, right? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like that's the goal. That's the dream to play. My country was where I really wanted to play was England.
Yeah.
But that actually kind of changed when I went to France because the players down there are great. The quality is amazing. Um, so he's like, you should write a book. And I was like, why? Like, who am I, Andrew, to write a book? I didn't go pro yet. I'm not this big name Ronaldo or Messi. Like, why am I writing a book? And he's like, well, to understand the steps that you need to take in order to get there. So document it, interview people, interview players that have been there, done that, interview the coaches that are signing these players. He's like, truly understand the game and document it, and then you could make money from this book, right? So creating a product was another piece of seed that he was planting as well for myself, empowering me in that sense. And he's like, that book, if you sell it, for example, at $1 and 1 million people buy it, you make $1 million, for example, right? So that got my mind going. So I went through that process at 18 to create the book, and then once it was done, it took me a few months, and then once it was done, it really truly took me some time to even publish it, to release it, or as well as figure that part out. But say, like, click that button on Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. You self-publish yourself on Amazon, and then like actually release it. Like, click that button. It was sitting there for a few months until I was like, you know what, let me release it. Clicked it, and then it was public. To just gain the confidence to actually like share it with the world. But yeah, so I learned a lot through that process. I created my own product, and then I went through the experience of like how to make money online through, Amazon, as well as like through funnels, click funnels, and went through that whole experience, and then having the experience of like people that don't even know me personally buying my own product. So that gave me a lot of power there. And then, fast forward to 2021, after England, after France, I went down to Naples, Florida, playing with Naples United FC in the NPSL. And Jay was hearing my experiences that I was going through. And the long story short is I wasn't getting as much playing time as I wanted in my position. And the reason I was down there was to get that game footage to leverage to move up into the next level. And the intention of the ownership group was that they had brought some players over from South America over to the US to give their people an opportunity in the United States in soccer. And that was their goal and intention. At that time, as a player, it was frustrating for me because it's like I had my own goals, but I didn't have the backing of the ownership group because their intention was different. So that was a learning experience for me. And shout out to them. I have a great relationship with them as well. So having gone through that experience and sharing that with Jay, he's like, hey, look, that's a ceiling. He's like, how do you remove that? Get on the club ownership side, right? So then I went through that whole soccer rabbit hole of learning about ownership levels at different levels, the NPSL, UPSL, NISA, USL, MLS Next Pro. And then and then that's where podcasting really took off, because I started podcasting in 2020. 2021 is where I really sat down and said, hey, there's a lot of people sitting at home because of COVID at that time. I said, this is an opportunity for me to learn from a lot of different people and share their stories. So, I mean, that's where it kind of, so let me just come back to the story with Jay. So in regards to removing the ceiling, so he said, the seed that got me, that he planted was, hey, who makes more money? The player or the club owner that's paying the player?
Yeah.
Club owner. He's like, that's the side you got to be on. So that's where podcasting and then the transition to soccer business all happened, is a long story short.
Man, it's incredible. I mean, I feel like it's so rare for people to, first of all, go from pursuing playing to having a more sort of like front office or business angle on it at all until after they've like retired being pro. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many examples of people who are pursuing a lot of the same things you are and are sort of like, in the same world as you now, who didn't get into it until they were, 33 and had to retire, after playing in Europe or whatever. I really find it so impressive to, be someone who was in a position as a player and was broad focused enough to really take that advice, right? Because I think it's true that people often don't think about being in the experience as the right perspective to write a book about it, for example. But actually, like, that's much more valuable to a current player than like Frank Rijkaard's book about like how you should be a pro. And it's like, well, it was a different time and you grew up there and I'm here in Canada or whatever, right? So I think that's just so incredible. I'd love to ask you a little bit about Canadian soccer, because my household is actually split nationally. My wife is from Edmonton, so we've got a lot of support for Canadian teams in my house. But it seems like the game in Canada has grown a ton. And obviously the game in North America, and with the World Cup coming to the three nations and all that, I feel like in the US at least, we don't have a very good picture of Canadian soccer, right? And I think that, Canadian soccer might be totally fine with that. But like, what would you say is sort of like the differences between the two, or if there's anything that you could sort of share with me and our audience about like what is unique about soccer in Canada in comparison, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before I dive in, Andrew, I just want to share quickly too. To all my Americans, I am a U.S. green card holder after 3 years of jumping through all the hoops and loops without an immigration lawyer.
Good work, man. That's not easy.
We're American through on my dad's side. So, because everyone that always comes on the podcast, we're talking behind the scenes, they're like, "Hey, aren't you Canadian?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also American too now.
Exactly.
So I want to get that on the record for the first time. So in regards to Canadian soccer, so through my experiences growing up, I was always already looking outside from a young age, like 16, 17, 18. I was always looking outside of going pro because the infrastructure was always England, France, but I was always thinking England, right?
Mm-hmm.
For some reason. Maybe because they had so many good teams. That's why all the teams I used to watch. But so in 2019 is when they came out with the Canadian Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, I was 19. I had to make a decision. Hey, do I want to try to go to the CPL when they were having tryouts before they had any, like the teams were selecting for their first players ever to sign ever in the club's history? Or do I want to go take my chances in France for 3 months and try to go pro over there? And I ended up choosing France. And I want to highlight a few points here. England, the players are really good. But it depends on what conditions you're playing in. If you're playing on natural grass in rain, it's hard to play in, but the players are really good.
Mm.
And if you're not a player that's used to it and you have to adjust that style of play, it's a bit hard, but it can get fun. But to see players be able to play in that type of environment is class. Then France was a different type of football. Quality players that's playing around that D3, D4 level, D5. Trialing around with clubs in that level. And I thought it was kind of technical. Like, I guess I've heard Spain is very technical, ball on the ground. France was ball on the ground, ball in the air. Players are controlling the ball very well. They're fast, they're strong. So that caught me off guard when I went there. I remember the first day walking into training and I'm seeing the ball in the air. I was like, oh, I thought the ball only stayed on the ground.
Right.
Nice chest control, ball's on the ground. He's off the races towards net, right? And I was like, wow, like I was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the last thing I'll share on that experience too is France was the first time France and Naples, but France was the first time I got to experience football as work in regards to playing it every day. It's a different mindset. You're wired different. You're thinking about training. What can I have done better? How do I improve this, et cetera, et cetera. So at that time, I chose France, but looking back at it now, the advice that I would give myself is I would have chose to actually have went into the Canadian Premier League, because besides on the field, you got to look at what passport do you hold, right? That affects if you can get, if you can work in that country legally or not. So in France, I didn't know that going into it, right? I knew, okay, I could get a visa, but it was a student visa. I didn't want to go to school, right? I didn't want to go to school in France. I wanted to play football and get paid for what I love to do. But I didn't know that at the time, right? And I didn't have that support in that sense of, hey, Kareem, like if you're going to France, you got to make sure you're getting a work visa. And there's certain things that need to be in place in order for this to actually happen. And what is the actual percentage of it actually happening if all these things check out, right? So there's ways to calculate all those things, right? And find those things. Now, again, so coming back, I would advise, knowing what I know now, I had advised myself in 2019 to actually pursue the Canadian Premier League, because that would have been my best chance to go pro without anything affecting me off the field, because I already hold a Canadian passport. I live in Canada. I live close to these teams. and I could actually get paid right away after signing a contract, right?
Hmm.
So I think those are some of the things that players actually face. Those obstacles is some is immigration, some is financial, some is political. And I think a lot of players are not aware because they're so focused on going pro. They're not aware of like if I'm in if I'm in England going to the US, what does that criteria look like? So it's
Yeah.
it's different depending on where you're coming from and where you're going and where you want to play. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things I faced. Yeah.
That's great. That's super helpful. I feel like that's something that is probably difficult for a young player who's talented to navigate is the prioritization of this or that, right? Because I'm sure in your mind growing up in Canada, you're like, oh, I'd love to play in the Premier League one day. Of course, like I'll go to
Yeah.
England and try that, right? But there is that sense of like the balance of like practicality and the dream that you now in hindsight you're like I probably should have gone after the more immediately attainable goal, right? Is that something that you'd advise most players to do now if they were in a similar position?
Yeah, 100%. It depends on the details. Um, so it depends on, hey, are you going overseas and the expenses that you're going to accumulate are going to be covered by the club
Hmm.
or whoever's sending you, or is it coming out of pocket, right? Really reconsider that, right? So, and then what's the goal? Are you trying to go pro or are you just going for the experience? Because those are two different things,
Mm.
right? So that's what I would say. Those are some of the things I would say. And then also I'd just say shout out to the founders and the leaders of the CPL, the Canadian Premier League, that have launched that league, because now the next generation of Canadian footballers or soccer players have a league to look up to, and they don't have to look outside their backyard. They can truly go pro in their country. So that's truly
Mm.
exciting.
Yeah, I mean it does. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, and then there's the women's league, the Northern, what is it called? The
Northern
Northern Super.
Premier Northern Premier League,
It's
Northern Super League. I can't remember.
Northern, something. Yeah, I think no NSL. So it's Northern Super League
Okay.
is what's the name of the league, and it's the first professional women's league that kicked off, I think, for the first time in 2025. Don't quote me on that, but now we have a professional women's league, which is truly exciting for all the women in soccer in Canada. So that's Canada's. I mean, soccer's still young in Canada, but we're building infrastructure, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean that's like everything, right? I think when first division clubs arrive, that's sort of to me at least, as long as they last, that's the sort of start of the real history, you know. I think in the US, I think a lot about the fact like MLS might be 30 years old or whatever it is, but like it's not that's not when first division soccer started in the US, you know. There's all these dead leagues from, days gone by where there were technically first division teams that existed at one time. It's sort of about the longevity that gives something that sense of permanence the way the FA and, these other um associations around the world have been running their first divisions unstopped other than like world wars for 100 something years. But it's exciting because I think even being in the US, I think there is this sense of North American soccer is kind of, in a lot of ways, sort of one thing to the rest of the world. Like obviously Mexico is different than the US and Canada, but I think the US and Canada are very much kind of linked in their destinies in the game in a lot of ways. And I think that, it's better for the US for Canada to have a Premier League. And I think it's better for, you know, Canada to have some of its teams competing in MLS for now, I guess. We'll see. I'm curious about that. What do you think about the idea of there being Canadian teams in MLS and then also the Canadian Premier League in those same cities? Like, how do you envision that evolving, if at all?
Um, I mean, well, you got Toronto FC, you got CF Montreal and Vancouver, three Canadian clubs competing in the MLS, which is a US league. I mean, their market size checks off the box and is performing. So, I mean, I think that's great for the MLS. I think I mean, those two don't really connect back to the CPL at all. So,
Mhm.
I mean, if you look at, USL used to have USL one with MLS, um, two teams, which are now they've separated and it's now MLS Next Pro. So like, it's all separated, right? So,
Yeah.
um, not much thoughts on that side, but I do think that America is a different beast, and what I mean by that is you got two Division One women's league, which is NWSL and USL Super League. That's real. That's happening.
Mhm.
And then you got soon to come. You got MLS, and then you got USL Premier League, or Premier League, which is going to be D1 sanctioned by 2020. Supposed to be playing by 2028. That's what
Yep.
they're saying publicly.
Mhm.
So there's nowhere around the world that there's two first women and men's divisions in the world. That's just US, so different beasts.
Yeah.
And then the cool thing about the USL League is that they have both pro men's and both pro women's,
Yeah.
which is the only league in the world that has that under their umbrella.
Mhm.
And then I think USL is differentiating their product per se, or their league, by incorporating Pro Rel, which has been a big conversation for a few years now, and they're first to do it. So it's going to be interesting to see it come to life. It's not an easy thing to do,
Mhm.
but I've spoke to a few club owners on that, so it's exciting for me. I mean, my outsider perspective on it, because Pro Rel really has real implications on real effects on the game. I mean, sorry, on the clubs,
Mhm.
and games truly matter. Whereas, for example, in the NFL, MLS, MLB, sorry, or NHL, the same teams play each year and nothing happens if the lower
Yeah.
two, lower three teams lose. Nothing happens to them. There's no consequence. So
Aside
it's
from
really
getting a first round draft pick.
right, right, right. So it's nice to see USL push for that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pull that off. But yeah, it's extremely different beast.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think one of the things that I find, and we're going to talk about Pro Rel in a little more detail in the second half of the show, but I want to focus on one thing there, which is that it's so hard to compare like even like the British Isles, not even England on its own, right? But it's so hard to compare that to like the US and Canada as like bordering countries, just because of the scale and like the scope of our nations are so geographically enormous that, when you think about the Premier League, like you can be a team from Wales and be in the Premier League, as we've seen through like Wrexham's pursuit right now, or Swansea a few years ago, right? You can technically be in a different country, but be in that first division. Do you think there's ever a world in which like the great schism has ended and there's now a merger of everything, and suddenly like Canada, the CPL and USL Championship and MLS and the first division all kind of merge, and we've got sort of like one giant pyramid? Or do you think it's necessary for Canada to kind of build its own pyramid? Like as a person who's into Canadian soccer, which one of those do you think is kind of better for the game up there? As like I'm talking 25 years down the line, like real psycho stuff.
That's a good question. I think that it's up to the stakeholders, right? If they agree upon such. If the deal makes sense, it comes down to the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Do a deal, then then it happens. But I don't know. Like, is it? I don't know. I just honestly, I don't know, because it's like this is the example that I want to give is like, okay, you have, for example, USL Championship. You have the clubs battling on the field every game.
Mm-hmm.
But behind the scenes, the owners are all working together. Hey, how can we improve this asset, this
Mm-hmm.
club?
Mm-hmm.
How can we add? So it's like, it's tough because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
what conversations are actually happening. So that's, I mean, ideal. You'd love to see the Pro Rel become as big as possible and that pyramid infrastructure build out. I mean, that's what's going on in England and France, all around the world. So ideally, yes, I'd want that to happen. How it happens, I don't know, but 20, 25 years, 30 years to see it come to life, it'd be pretty amazing. And hopefully, fingers crossed, being involved, a part of that, a small piece, part of that process
Yeah.
with owning our own club one day soon. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like, to me, the those kinds of dreamy visions of what, things could evolve into is a part of the fun here, because we actually have like runway ahead of us, right? As opposed to England or France, where like their system's been set for 100 years. Like they don't need to reinvent the wheel over there, because like turns out we can generate some pretty talented players this way. But for us in the North America, like you said, like we have these much more recently established systems and first divisions and all this stuff, which leaves the future kind of open to be discovered, which I find super fascinating. Okay, so getting back to the podcast that you run, the One Soccer Nation pod, tell me about some of the sort of like best lessons that you've learned from guests on the show. And I'm sure there's been hundreds, but like as someone who's just fascinated in the game, and also someone who's trying, building your own club and going through the early stages of that, like what are some gems you've heard, or some things that you just like stay at the front of your head kind of?
Yeah, I truly enjoy that question, because the first person that comes to mind is Marcus Wolferson. And the reason why is because of what he said to me. It really stuck. And what he said is that he launched his club, Sarasota Paradise, which was in that time in USL League 2, which is now this year they're going to be in USL 1.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he launched his team in COVID. So I said, hey, why did you start your team in COVID? He said, he really wanted to do it. He loved the game. And he said, regardless of the ups and downs, the challenges that come with it, as long as you love what you're doing, you're gonna go through it. So that's really truly the difference of whether if you're willing to stick something out,
mm-hmm.
is dependent on how much you love that thing, whatever it is, a person, a company, a sport, whatever it is. If you really love it, you're willing to stick through the good and the bads, and get through the weather. So weather the storm. So that one really stuck with me because it was just so organic. I think a pretty cool story too to share is Darren Van Tassel from he has a club in USL League 1 and I think USLW League. I'm forgetting the name right now, but yeah, I'm forgetting the name. But basically, his story is very cool. Their family, it's a group of ownership. I believe it's 3 in total,
mm-hmm.
if I remember correctly from the episode. It was land that was passed down from like 1815. That was passed down, and we're talking about like 100 acres plus. That they're now like building. They built a brand new stadium on it. They're doing roads, lights,
wow,
transit, apartments, Chick-fil-A's, like it's a whole mini city that they're building, right? So I think that was like one of the coolest stories. So that the history of land transfer,
mm-hmm.
And now what they're doing with it. So I think that was probably one of the coolest stories to take away from. But the last thing I'll say is to highlight, like we've had some really amazing people. I mean, everyone that we had on has been amazing. But just to do some name dropping, we've had like Brett Johnson from Rhode Island FC, got a chance to go down to that stadium, tour it, and watch a game there, as well as see them transform the soccer field to a rugby field within a few hours.
That's awesome.
I actually got to meet Gabe there from Portland, Maine.
Oh, so really?
Yeah, Rhode Island was playing Portland, Maine. Who else? We've had Greg Scott, who's leading the project in Riverside, California. Who else?
You've had
Justin Papadakis from the league.
Yep.
We've had some, and we've had Wendy DeMonte,
mm-hmm.
from Reno, Nevada. She's leading a project there, a $350 million mixed-use development with soccer being the anchor. So some amazing people that are leading some amazing projects. Marlon Glean, the president of the Grenada Football Association. So,
mm-hmm.
The media side is really what got me in the door and what's been really a great tool for learning, networking, and providing value to others around the world. So we've been building online in that sense, and it's been a great network effect.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I'll say that I'm so impressed by your show about is the fact that as someone who also is trying to build a pro club one day, there are so many, and I'm not a person who went to business school. I barely went to theater school. I have a lot of things I need to learn about business still to this day, right? But like I said earlier, I've just gained so much insight from so many people who have gone through these processes before just by listening to them talk to you on your show. Kevin Willer's another great example of someone who
Yeah.
came on the show, and like these are folks who if you didn't go to business school, it's very hard to get in a room with them and hear them talk, right? So
Yeah.
what you've been able to do with the show to give access to like regular people, to these folks who are kind of otherwise pretty hard to get on the phone with if you're a nobody like myself, it gives you such a great sense of possibility in a way, because I think a lot of the times if you're an outsider, you really have the assumption that there's some like secret sauce or there's some like secret handshake that you don't know, and that's why you can't get in the room and learn this stuff. But really, it's just like normal folks with like figuring stuff out one step at a time, right? And like the sort of humanness of a lot of those conversations are what made me feel a lot more confident that the path ahead isn't one that like is impossible for a normal person without a business degree to figure out. So I'm really impressed with the show because it does give this sense of accessibility to what is otherwise like a pretty elite world, you know? So yeah, kudos for that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Andrew. And you are somebody, you're
Oh,
building
thank you.
you're building an amazing project, providing value to your market and building a community. I mean, so I just want to touch on that quickly too. I used to think that way in regards to like, hey, like there isn't more to it, but there is. That's I guess that's what really changed in the last year's for me last year towards the middle and end of Q3, Q4 is like, hey, there's levels to this.
Mhm.
And I mean, just like keeping it at a podcast level. So like how we started off to where we are now, it's like night and day. I mean, back in the days, when we were starting off in 2020, we said, hey, Andrew, do you want to come on the podcast? I'm like, that's it. Like,
Yep.
let's make it happen. Now the process is there's way more steps that we take to make sure that we're providing to make sure that we're executing on the strategic media strategy that we want to execute for our guest. We've monetized the podcast.
Mhm.
So it's we have agreements now, right? Like there's a bit more to it now. So I mean, and then just to come to the club side, I mean, hey, it's not an easy lift. I mean, what you're doing to want to get to the next level for your club, it's not an easy lift at all. It takes a whole village, systems, relationships, capital to really bring this thing to life. So I'd say that for me, my mind shift in that sense of like, hey, there's really levels. It's not easy. So I commend you to what you're building, and I mean, we're trying to do that lift too. So I know it's not easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Entrepreneurship is not easy at all. And I'm in the same boat as you in regards to, I never went to college or university. So I've been always learning on the go. And that's where Jay comes in, is just having a great mentor, a great person to truly learn from, to understand businesses has been extremely helpful. So
yeah. No, that makes total sense, and I appreciate all that. We both know how much hard work and patience and passion has to go into something to keep it going, let alone grow. So, yeah, kudos to you on that. We are going to take a slight break here to get a few messages across to our listening or viewing audience. Before we do that, again, I just want to say thanks for being here, Kareem. We will be right back, and yeah, thanks for listening, folks. You'll catch the second half just after these brief messages.
8 years ago, we were just an idea, a distant dream for togetherness, joy, and triumph. We did not inherit a dynasty. We did not arrive with airdropped riches and fanfare. We began with a foundation of belief and a shared commitment to build something. Something authentic, something necessary. We're building this club the only way we know how. Stone by stone, brick by brick, goal after goal after goal. Now the foundation is set. The structure's sound. We can hear the music of the side streets and the rhythm of Lake Michigan as we give our community more Chicago to root for. Which is why we're proud to announce, for the 2026 season, Edgewater Castle Football Club officially enters the national stage, USL League 2 and USLW League. We built together. Now we climb together. Onward and upward, always.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stone by Stone. I am still your host, Andrew Swanson, and I am still grateful to still be joined by Mr. Kareem Ray. Kareem, thank you so much for being here after the break.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So as promised in half one, we're going to dive into the future figment of promotion and relegation that is, gradually approaching the USL and US Soccer here. You have obviously talked to a lot of folks at USL, either in HQ or in club ownership or a number of different things in those leagues. You also spoke with Brett McCormick, who I think you focus pretty specifically on Pro-Rel in that episode, right?
Yeah.
So in a market like Chicago, where sports is so tied to the franchise model, right? And I'm speaking specifically as a Chicagoan now. All of our sort of legacy sports here are the classic sports, right? We've got hockey team, 2 baseball teams, football, basketball, and those are where, the local population here finds their kind of cultural connection to the game in the city. How do you think markets with these sort of classic legacy, primarily American sports will react to Pro-Rel being something they can engage with as a fan? Do you think it's something that like the meritocracy of it will become appealing to everyone? Or do you think it's a thing that will take a long time to kind of break into these more classic sports markets?
I think the fans that get it, they're already doing it. They're already waking up early in the morning to catch the EPL games or whatever country they're watching from.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that get it will be into it. But it's really about educating, what you guys do, and there's other soccer leaders that are doing to educate the everyday person that's watching another sport on learning more about soccer. So, getting that awareness, and educating that fan on what Pro-Rel is and what soccer is. So I think that's what really caught me off guard in regards to the US market in the early days when I was learning about the US market and understanding where soccer is. I was caught off guard on like, hey, soccer is not number 1 in this country, right? It was like number 5, I think, at the time. And I think we've moved up. We're at 4 now, and 4 in regards to the other sports leagues. So I think there's still that groundwork to do, that we're all doing, that everyone in soccer is pushing for. The 2025 Club World Cup was a FIFA Club World Cup, which was a good test run for what they have ramping up now in 2026 this year, the FIFA World Cup for 2026, with 3 countries for the first time hosting all at the same time. You got Canada, US, Mexico. You got 48 teams, so more teams. You know what that does economically or commercially. So, the numbers are bigger, and what it does for each city that's hosting. I mean, That's great for the businesses locally that are close to these stadiums, as well as hotels and so on and so forth, small businesses. That's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, what was going on in the news in Mexico with the cartel taking over.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on. What I've heard is that it's kind of back to normal now. So hopefully it's all good. We have about 4 months to go, I believe, right? We're in March, April, May, June. So yeah, 4 months away.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to get 2 months of the World Cup. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing the effect that it has on the masses. And how many more parents put their children into soccer at a grassroots level. I mean, the numbers I've heard, I haven't looked into this personally, but the numbers I've heard is that soccer is the number one fastest growing sport in America. I mean, just because, look at the accessibility. I mean, you just really need a shirt, shorts, socks, shin pads, cleats, and a ball. I mean, it's not that expensive. Versus, hockey or football, it's a bit more. And there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of teams. So then you're looking at 2028, the Olympics in LA, more soccer, and then potentially a 2031 Women's World Cup hosted by the US. So it's exciting. It's going to be interesting to see how many more soccer people we create, and then that funnels into, what you're working towards, USL 1. In the professional realm of continuing to build these community assets with, the trend I'm seeing as mixed use development is key. And a new thing is, this is what I discussed with Justin Papadakis on records. He had mentioned the training centers is the next thing. And, I actually asked him, I said, hey, I don't really hear much of this publicly or see much, right? I'm not seeing everything, right? But he's like, yeah, that was for a reason. And now they're coming out with the training facilities, but that was always going on in the back end. And so that's another piece of real estate. But this is going to be a great opportunity for individuals leading projects into these club ownership side for mixed use development and to see the numbers go up on the fan side and the parent side and the more players. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. On when it comes to the fans, would you say that with the World Cup coming right now and with all the growth that's happened, in MLS and in USL and the, increasing approach of promotion and relegation potentially, would you say that in general, people that are fans of the game in North America should sort of have a positive outlook on what the future looks like? Do you think things are sort of moving in the right direction generally that should make people feel excited about it? Or do you think there's a sort of a sense of, maybe putting the cart before the horse right now? Like, where do you think things are at right now?
It's exciting. It's really, really exciting. I think I'm just seeing people that don't really watch soccer or have played or anything like that get really excited about soccer because the World Cup, it happens every 4 years, right? People have to wait 4 years for this thing to happen.
Yeah.
It's the most popular sport. It's watched and loved by billions around the world. Even if people don't watch soccer, they watch it at this time, right?
Yeah.
I remember, I'll share a quick story quickly. Again, this connects back to Jay. Was at Jay's office, and I used to go there Monday to Friday. I was doing an apprenticeship, and everyone's in suits, right? It's the BMO, the Financial District building, right? So everyone's sharp. There's this big screen in the lobby area, and the lobby area is like huge. Like we're talking about like a building that has like an underground mall underneath, and like on that same floor that connects back to the main road, there's other stores like Harry Rosen and just high profile vendors, the banks close by. Everyone was just in the lobby for like 20 minutes. Looking up at the screen, watching the World Cup. Yeah, I don't know what team was playing at that time, but I remember that moment so vividly. There had to have been 70 people in the lobby, and we all stopped. Maybe some people were probably late to meetings, but we all stopped to sit there and watch a few minutes of the game until it went on break or whatever happened, and then everyone just left. So just truly the power of football is up there. It's exciting. It's really exciting. And I think that there's something else I wanted to say, but it's slipping my mind, but it's truly exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I can feel it. I think here in Chicago specifically, we mentioned before the Fire building this new stadium. The Stars are building their own training facility. The Fire just finished theirs. And we've been in a city that has kind of suffered in the game for a while. Like the Fire have spent many years when I was working there struggling to avoid the wooden spoon and playing in Bridgeview and having a very difficult route to break their curse. And now it feels as though the Fire back at Soldier, their offices are in the Loop. The Stars are now up at Northwestern and Evanston, closer to our neck of the woods. And they're building their training facility. The Fire have built their training facility. Like all these things are starting to like roll the boulder up the hill in a way that it looks like we have some momentum here. And I think that in general, like that's what it feels like we're kind of being primed for here in the US, is that this sort of next version of MLS and USL and sort of the general landscape as a whole will just look a little different after the World Cup because it's been positioned that way, So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's incredibly exciting. I think that, when it comes to taking advantage of an opportunity like this, we just got to not mess it up. We only get it once every 30 years or whatever. So, but yeah, I think things are exciting. I got another question for you before we move on into sort of more specific World Cup comments and predictions. Okay. If you were like the president of CONCACAF for a day, and I was going to say the president of USSF, but we're just going to expand it a little further. If you were the president of CONCACAF for a day, is there anything that you feel strongly enough about that you'd just be like, I'm putting all my cards in on this and we're doing it today before I have to leave? Like, is there a rule change or a thing that you'd want to implement in the region to change the game in any way?
So that's out my lane. So I don't know much on that side. So I can't speak to that. And there's nothing that comes to mind. So I have nothing to say to that. But what I do want to say is that what I wanted to say a bit earlier too, which I'll say now, is that this is something, again, I realized last year, is that nothing's perfect. And there's never not going to be challenges. So I think, as long as the right intention's there and there's a plan and there's the boxes being checked off, and we as a collective, we did everything that we needed to do to try to make this work, then everyone can be happy about it. So that's something that I'm never a complainer. To anyone else, but I will complain to myself, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's just for me to kind of like get it off my chest. But it's like, at the end of the day, like whatever the issue is, or whatever the problem that needs to be solved, there's always a solution, always. So anytime I ever hear like anything negative, or like, oh, the FIFA World Cup, transportation, things I've heard about issues that have come up, there's always going to be issues. Nothing's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's just the right intention, having the right people working on the right things, executing on it. And hey, we tried our best. Nothing's going to be perfect. So in that sense, as long as those things are being done, then I think people can really feel good about what they're doing. So I think that's what's happening, because nothing's going to be perfect.
Yeah. That is such a great answer. And I think it is a bit of folly to chase perfection in general, let alone in American soccer, because it's just, you're not going to find it. No, that's an excellent point. So speaking of the World Cup, we've got about 5 to 7 more minutes left here. This is the first World Cup we've had in North America or the US in, I don't know, what is it? 26 years? No, more than that. 32? 42. No. I'm not great at math. It's been a long time. But my ultimate question is, what do you think the sort of general outcome of this is going to be? and there will be many outcomes, obviously, right? But we've referenced a lot of different things that can evolve and be impacted by an event like this. What do you think is sort of the surest bet is that's something that will change or evolve, or that you'd sort of put your money on, saying like, I bet this happens as a result of the World Cup, either showing up and being a massive success or showing up and having issues and needing to resolve them? Like what do you think that main outcome is that you could predict?
Yeah, I'll say a few things here. So I'd like to mention Marlon Glean, president of the Grenada Football Association.
Mm-hmm.
He had said when the World Cup had came, there was peace within these countries that were hosting, because everyone came together to be one.
That sounds
so
nice. We'll take a little bit of that.
Hopefully, hey, this is another great point, I guess. So, a trending name, Donald Trump, all the time. Love him or hate him. He got the Peace Award from FIFA down in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And you see stuff online with like ICE, that stuff going on with that. So I think there's a sense of fear from some people to travel to the US that would love to come and support their team. Like again, as a soccer player, my perspective is like, hey, it's like the World Cup, like everything should be good. But coming to the soccer business side, it's like, hey, these are things to really consider.
Mm-hmm.
The costs of tickets. So I think that I lost my train of thought.
No, I think I see where you're going. Basically, that like the fact that the head of the Grenada FA mentioned that like when peace arrives when the World Cup comes, because everyone has something very positive to focus on, basically, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So hopefully there's a sense of peace. Hopefully, people feel safe visiting. For sure, Canada, 100%.
Yeah, I don't see any issues there. Here, guys. Yeah, y'all leave your front doors open. Yeah.
But yeah, no, we don't have any guns over here, guys. America's peace. I mean, I thankfully have never come across any experiences. So hopefully for those traveling to the US, have a great experience. And then hopefully things in Mexico, again, I've heard that it's gone back to normal, but hopefully there's this sense of safety, security, and people that are coming from other countries to visit Mexico, US, or Canada have a great experience and enjoy the game. So yeah, that's a big thing is hopefully that peace comes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I could say one thing about that too, living in the Midwest, there is a sense of like confusion and difficulty with the World Cup happening this year, and with Trump in office and his policies being enacted right now when the World Cup's going to happen. And yeah, I think that the best thing that can kind of come from it right now, at least here in the US, is that a sense of kind of othering that happens here a lot with Americans, and specifically, like, frankly, like white Americans, the othering of the rest of the world, which I think a lot of the time is connected to the game of soccer here historically, right? Which is that the issue with soccer is that it's for commies, or that it's for people that aren't American, because we have football and baseball and all this stuff. I think that what the World Cup can do for the US right now is create that sense of openness, and sort of the fact that we're on a planet right now, and it's got a lot of other countries on it, and like we're a part of that. And that idea is something that I think we could definitely use a little more of in the US right now. So yeah,
I do want to say something quickly too. Is like things just keep flying, but I remember now. So politics is a part of everything. It's I was never interested. I've never been a person of politics. I'm still not, but there are politics attached to everything. So I think, what I was watching on TV, the when they were picking the balls for the for the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I was rewatching it. I didn't watch it live, but that was very political,
Yeah.
right? So, paying attention to those things are key for me, as well as what we're building behind the scenes. There is this political piece, and you really, if you want to get in position of leading, I mean, it's a part of it. So you got to really for me, it's important to understand it. So and this is actually one of the keys that I've taken away that I'll share, is when I was invited down to go to the USL Expansion Summit in Spokane, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
It was a private event. It was very intimate. There was an individual that I spoke to, and I said to him, I said, hey, I want to get more into politics. This was last year. And again, it's not something I really wanted to do, but I noticed it's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey man, he's like, look, at the end of the day, it's actually a human relationship first before politics. And it's actually something you just said too. So, and then this is across everything in life. So it's about human relationships first.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally a few hours right after, connected with some city officials that I've had on the podcast, Tino Valleral. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name. I'm probably butchering it, but from Brownsville, Texas, and Sean De Palma from Brownsville, Texas. Tino's the commissioner. Sean is the Parks and Recreations guy. And again, it was that human interaction first too. And then just to drop a quick gem on the club ownership side, in that investor roundtable discussion that was happening, two of the biggest challenges were mentioned. One is land. That kept coming up from different groups,
Mm-hmm.
leading different projects. And the second was getting the city on side,
Mm-hmm.
right? So having that city support. And that's something I faced in one of the markets that we were working on.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the two biggest hurdles. And towards the end of that roundtable, Tino had stood up and had shared that, hey, those are two hurdles, two obstacles that we're going to remove in Brownsville, Texas. The city's on side.
Yeah.
And the city owns land that they're willing to contribute. And that's what you're seeing happen in action right now. Brownsville has signed, the city has signed an LOI with USL, and this has already been made publicly, that they want to bring professional soccer to Brownsville, Texas. And they're in the feasibility study stage, as they've been in a few months now, I think about 6 months
Mm-hmm.
in that stage. And that's really exciting to see. And let me just step back too real quick, or step away from that and just come back to the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the effect that Messi had on Inter Miami.
Yeah.
And you have the superstar team: Messi, Suarez, Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, Barcelona. But the Messi effect, as we say, what that had happened, and that's I would say, in my perspective, a trailer of what the World Cup will have. That's like you're gonna have Messi, Ronaldo, all these top players, all this star power and eyeballs in North America for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of attention, lots of energy that will be focused there, and that will have a shift on a lot of the people in these countries to bring them towards soccer. So and their dollars. So it'll be very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, a bit of a gold rush in the game in some ways, and that, all eyes are starting to focus on this part of the world, and people who are interested in the game are looking here instead of elsewhere, which is great. Okay. Last couple questions before we sign off here. Who's going to win the World Cup?
That's a good question. I'd want to see Portugal for Ronaldo, but I'd say a quarterfinals, you're seeing France, England, Spain, maybe Norway. But maybe
Scotland, obviously.
No, I can't put Scotland in there for you. I can't do that for you.
Fair enough.
I'm kidding. But I kind of want to see an England-Spain final.
Yeah.
England-France final.
Yeah.
Or a Spain-France final. Like those are the top three teams I'd want to kind of see.
You want to see the big dogs. You want to see the big dogs fight it out in a final. I know what you mean. And like, that's why Argentina-France was so good, because it was like, this is who you want to see. You want to see Mbappe versus Messi. And like they delivered. Okay. Golden Boot. Who's going to be the Golden Boot, you think?
I don't know. I don't watch.
Yeah,
I have my blinders on. I'm like
yeah.
focused on like One Soccer Nation.
I
Like,
know,
this is
man. I get it. I get it. I think that I think that the Golden Boot could be Holland, even if Norway don't go that far, because I think he's just going to put, like, in the qualifying rounds, he's going to get like a hat trick a game, easy.
Maybe I'll say two players. I'll say maybe Dembele again, or
Yeah.
Dembele. Yeah, Dembele did well in the FIFA World Cup. FIFA World Cup. Or Lamine Yamal. He's a young talent.
That's real. This is his, like, a bit of his, like, what's the word? His, like, debutante moment as a superstar, because he wasn't in the last World Cup, was he? No, he was 14. Of course not. How could he be? I guess he was too young, probably. So this is his first. It is. Hey, my producers are telling me this is his first World Cup. That's a good shout. Yeah. I'm excited to see that. Okay, man. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for today. I've just been given the note that we have a minute left on this call. So, Kareem, man, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your story with us and your perspective on the game here. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, if there's anything you want to share with folks about how they can learn more about you and your show and some of your content, yeah, why don't you share how folks can get in touch or find out more?
Yeah, absolutely. Best place to connect on LinkedIn, just Kareem Rae, Kareem Rae. Yeah, no, Andrew, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It was a great time. Well spent.
Awesome. And, we'll drop this hint now to our listeners. There may be an episode of One Soccer Nation coming with a somewhat familiar host and guest combination. So I am very, very grateful to have your time now and potentially in the future as well. We'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll be seeing you soon on the One Soccer Nation podcast.
Amazing, man. Well, thank you so much again for your time and your insight and your brain. Soccer in this part of the world is better for having your voice in it. So I really appreciate you coming on with us. And yeah, I hope you have a terrific rest of your week. And if you want to know more about the game in this part of the world and all its many facets, definitely go follow Kareem and follow One Soccer Nation. Thank you so much again, my friend. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
All right, folks. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.